Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez. Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world. We begin today's show in Durham, North Carolina, where a crowd of activists toppled a Confederate statue in that city on Monday, just 2 days after the deadly white nationalist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. The crowd of activists shouted, "We are the revolution," as a college student named Takia Thompson climbed up a ladder, looped a rope around the top of the Confederate soldiers' monument in front of the old Durham County Courthouse, and then pulled the statue to the ground as the crowd erupted in cheers.
On Tuesday, Takia Thompson was arrested on 2 charges of felony inciting a riot and 3 misdemeanor charges: injury to personal property, injury to real property, and defacing a statue. She spoke in Durham just before she was arrested.
I think what we did was the best way. And not just the best way, but the only way, because the state and the Klan and white supremacists have been collaborating, right? So what we did, not only was it right, it was just. I did the right thing. Everyone who was there, the people did the right thing. And the people will continue to keep making the right choices until every Confederate statue is gone, until white supremacy is gone. That statue is where it belongs, right? It needs to be in the garbage, incinerated. Like every Confederate statue and every vestige of white supremacy, it has to go.
Takia Thompson speaking in Durham, North Carolina. Shortly after she spoke, she was arrested, given a $10,000 unsecured bond. She was released last night, heads to court this morning. But just before she does, she joins us here on Democracy Now! Takia Thompson is a student at North Carolina Central University and a member of Workers' World Party Durham branch. Welcome to Democracy Now!, Takia. I know you're under enormous pressure as you head to court for, after being arrested for climbing a ladder, looping a rope around the top of the Confederate soldiers' monument, and pulling down the statue. Talk about why you engaged in this and exactly what you did.
Okay, I participated in a march and a rally, and I decided to climb to the top of the Confederate soldiers' statue and put the rope around his neck and throw the rope down to the crowd, and the crowd could decide if they wanted to pull it down or not. And I did this because the statue is a symbol of nationalism, and it's a symbol of white nationalism. And the type of white nationalism I'm talking about is the type of white nationalism that is sending me death threats on Facebook. I'm talking about the type of white nationalist that, you know, has killed a woman in a protest. We're talking about the type of white nationalism that would drive a car at high speeds into a crowd of women and children. And I think vestiges of that, and I think anything that emboldens those people and anything that gives those people pride needs to be crushed in the same way that they want to crush black people and the other groups that they target.
And Takia, could you talk about how the events in Charlottesville influenced you or affected you, especially, obviously, the stunning symbols of those marches with torches on Friday night through the campus of the University of Virginia?
Well, when I look at Charlottesville, I look at Durham, North Carolina. I look at Richmond, Virginia. I look at Atlanta, I look at Georgia, I look at Stone Mountain. I look at the entirety of America and American history, and I know that Charlottesville is Durham, North Carolina. Charlottesville is America. The sentiment that was expressed in Charlottesville is part and parcel of what built this country, and I know that Charlottesville can erupt anywhere.
Can you talk about what happened when you were arrested, Takia? Where did they take you? You now had to post cover $10,000 bond?
Right. Being arrested was in and out. I think the powers that be knew that if I wasn't released in a timely manner, that politically that would not be a good move for them. So I was in and out very quickly. as soon as I got there, people inside were recognizing me. So I know that they knew that with the climate and the situation in this city that they had to release me.
You're charged with felony inciting a riot, 3 misdemeanor charges, injury to personal property, injury to real property, and defacing a statue. Your answer to those charges?
The Sheriff Andrews and the establishment want to make a political prisoner of me, and they want to make an example of me, and they want to scare people, and they want to scare Black people, and they want to scare people of color, and they want to scare people who are reclaiming their agency, and they can't, as we have seen. I haven't been keeping up with the headlines, but listening to the headlines from today, you can't keep your foot on people's neck forever. And people are going to rise up, as we're seeing throughout this country. We're seeing the rise of white nationalism, and we're seeing the rise of actual resistance. And I'm not talking about writing your senator. I'm not talking about casting a ballot in a voting booth. I'm talking about voting with your actions, and people are doing that right now.
I want to turn to President Trump speaking Tuesday at a press conference at the Trump Tower in New York City.
Are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him?
I do love
Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now we're going to take down his statue.
Takia, what's your response to the president equating the actions that have been occurring now with taking the statues of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson down?
I think he knows what he's doing. I don't know how to. I'm not sure how to express how I feel about that, but I feel as though the people will decide, and we live in a representative democracy, and our representatives are supposed to enforce our will. And when our representatives fail to enforce our will, then the people are left with no choice but to do it themselves. So in this instance, I can't really speak to whether or not people want statues of whoever removed, but if the people do, then the people will do it, and the people will find a way.
Takia, you're certainly not alone in wanting statues taken down. Just today in the headlines, members of the Congressional Black Caucus have revived calls to remove all the Confederate monuments from the halls of Congress. People were protesting in places like Memphis, Tennessee, a large crowd linking arms surrounding a monument of the former Confederate President Jefferson Davis. In fact, Robert E. Lee, the Confederate soldier, the monument to him in Charlottesville is what's at the core of the controversy here, that they are taking it down, said he did not believe in Confederate monuments. But Democratic Governor Roy Cooper of North Carolina, your governor, initially tweeted racism is unacceptable, but there is a better way to remove these monuments. On Tuesday, he unequivocally said the statues must come down, and this is what he said.
Unlike an African-American father, I'll never have to explain to my daughters why there exists a monument for those who wish to keep her and her ancestors in chains. Some people cling to the belief that the Civil War was fought over states' rights, but history's not on their side. We can't continue to glorify a war against the United States of America fought in the defense of slavery. These monuments should come down.
So your governor is saying these monuments should come down. You just took one down. He says, though, there's a better way. Your response, Takia?
I'm going to let the governor breathe for now. I'm glad he made that statement. And
did he make that statement after you took the monument down?
What was that?
Did he make that statement after you took that monument down?
Yes, yeah. My problem with what his initial statement was that he's like, there's no place for racism. And then he goes on to say, but there's a better way. And if there was a better way, we wouldn't have been waiting almost 100 years to do that. And like I've been trying to reiterate over and over again, is that there is no but when we're talking about racism, right? There is no but when we're talking about people's right to life and people's right to not be psychologically attacked with these dehumanizing images. So there's only a right side and a wrong side, but I'm glad he did release that statement, and I'll let him breathe.
Takia, I know you have to go right now to court, but I want to ask you the effect that Bree Newsom and her act 2 years ago in South Carolina, when she shimmied up the flagpole of the Confederate flag on the grounds of the South Carolina state capitol and took down the Confederate flag. What kind of effect that had on you and your actions this week?
Well, earlier this week, I spoke to some news, and they asked me, like, what was I thinking when I was going up the steps? And my response was that as I was going up the steps, I was thinking about the history of, like, Black nationalist organizing and Black nationalist struggle and Black struggle. And I was thinking about my ancestors, and included in that is Bree Newsom. I could not have, you know, she created a model of possibility for me. And I was thinking about her. I was thinking about people who believe in people's power and the power that they have within themselves. I was thinking about people like Kwame Ture. I was thinking about people like Ella Baker, organizers, grassroots people who give power to the people and let them decide.
And finally, Takia, Heather Heyer is being buried today. There is a memorial for her, a major memorial in Charlottesville. She was on the streets, killed by the white supremacists who plowed his crowd into the anti-fascist protesters, plowed his car. What are your thoughts about Heather today, a white ally in this struggle?
My thoughts about Heather's murder is that it's a tragic death, especially to be killed so violently and so brutally. My condolences to her family. May she rest in power. And I won't stop fighting, and the people won't stop fighting against people who did this, right? And we're not fighting against hatred, all right? We're fighting against an ideology. We're fighting against a system, right? When you create a pseudoscience to prove your superiority to the world, we're talking about more than just hate, right? We're talking about something a lot bigger than that. Of course, this ideology is rooted in hate, but we're talking about systems of government, right? Systems of disenfranchisement, and that's what we're fighting against. And we won't stop until we have equality and we have justice.
Takia Thompson, I want to thank you for being with us. Takia now heads to court. She's a student at North Carolina Central University. She climbed up a ladder this week after the Charlottesville attack, looped a rope around the top of the Confederate Soldiers Monument in front of the old Durham County Courthouse, pulled the statue to the ground. This is Democracy Now! When we come back, Bree Newsom joins us from Charlotte, North Carolina. Stay with us.